Hello guys, today we're going to build a RESTful API using Laravel version 11. Before getting started, make sure you have PHP and Composer installed in your local machine. So after that, let's go to our new terminal and create our project with the following command of Composer create-project Laravel/Laravel. And now the name of our new project, in my case, is going to be Laravel-API. Hit enter and wait until Composer install all the packages needed for our new Laravel application. Fine, open our new project inside our code editor. In my case, it's Visual Studio Code. Let's make it a little bigger. Okay, in this new version, Laravel comes with a fresh SQLite database configured. So we don't need to set up a database connection to begin a new project as before. So we can see, as we can see here in the .env file, the DB connection is SQLite and it is stored inside here, the database folder, in the database.sqlite. Okay, now we need to enable the API for our Laravel application with PHP artisan install :API. It is asking to run the migrations, so let's say yes. And now we have, as we can see here in routes, now we have this API file that it is where we are going to declare all the routes of our API. Now let's try if our application runs correctly. Create a new route in the root and let's return a simple message like this one: hello from API. We need semicolons here and here. Now we need to run our application with artisan serve. Our application is running in the port 8000, so let's go to there. Here in the root of our application, we have the default template of Laravel, and the API is located inside the API path. So we need to go here /API and we get our message. So let's go back and kill our process. And in this tutorial, we're going to work with clients. So we need to create the model, the controllers, and all the files needed. So let's begin with the model. We need to run the artisan command, php artisan make model client. Okay, let's go to the model. Inside app models client, here we have our client model. In this file, we need to declare the properties that we will be capable of filling and editing inside a protected property called fillable, and we're going to have here the name email, country, and language. Now let's create the clients table with a new migration. So let's create the migration with the artisan command, make :migration, migration, and let's call it create client table. The naming is important because we are telling Laravel that we're going to create the clients table, so it is going to create the proper scaffolding for creating this migration. So let's hit enter, and the migration is inside database/migrations. So let's go there, here, database migrations, the last one. As we can see, Laravel has created the schema to create the clients table with property ID and the timestamps for created at and updated at. So now let's add the other properties we need. As we said before, that we need a string that is going to be called a name, an email. Let's copy this line to go faster, the country, and the last one is going to be the language. By default, all of these fields are required. So let's say that the country can be null. So with this function, nullable. Let's save and run our migrations with PHP artisan migrate, and it is done. Now we have the migration, we have the model, so we need the route and the controllers. Let's create our first route to manage our clients. So let's begin with creating our first client. So we're going to receive a post method inside our client's route, and we're going to perform an action that will be inside our client controller. So we're getting an error because we need to create this controller. So let's go to our terminal and type PHP artisan make :controller client controller. Now we have our client controller here. So let's go back to the route and declare that we need to import this client controller. Site HTTP controllers client controller, and now we need to tell this route which action it will perform. So let's wrap this client controller inside an array, and the first one will be the class, and the second will be the name of the action that will be store. Save, and let's create this store action. Okay, inside this action we are going to receive the request that will be of type request. We need to validate the data we received from the client. So let's create a validator here that it is a facade from the Laravel framework. Let's import it from here, illuminate support facades. We're going to run the make static function, and it will receive as the first parameter the data we're going to validate, and the second one will be the rules. So here we can get the data with the all method from the request, and now we're going to set the rules for the validation. The first one will be for the name, that it will be required. Most of the time we need to set more than one rule, so we can make it by two ways. One is separating each rule inside an array like this, for example required, and another will be the max size of 255, and the second one separating each rule inside the same string with this symbol. So let's try both of them. The second one will be an email, and the rules we're going to put them inside an array, so it will be required. It must be a type of email, and it must be unique inside the client's table, so two or more clients cannot have the same email. We need to put it here that it must be unique from client's table. Now the country, as we say before, it can be null, so it is not required, but the max length, it will be from 255. It is not necessary that it is inside an array, and the language, it must be required, and we're going to accept specific languages. So to do this, we need to put an in after the colon, all the options that we're going to accept. In our case, it will be Spanish, English, and Portuguese. So now after that, we are going to check if the validation fails. So if validator fails, abort with a 400 HTTP status code, that is for bad request. Else we need to create our client. So with client, we need to import it from the model, the create method. Here inside we need to fill with the properties, so the name comes from name, from the request, as well as the other properties. Fine. Now return a response. Successfully, client created successfully with a status code of 201. Now let's try this action. So let's run our application, PHP artisan serve. And to test our API, I'm going to use Postman and create here a new collection for HTTP, and this request will be post to HTTP localhost 8000 slash API slash clients, and we're going to send the data for our new client. Let's go here to body, raw. Here we need to pass the data as a JSON. So the name will be Peter, the email peter at example.com, and the country, Peter is from, I don't know, Portugal, and he speaks Portuguese. So let's send the request. And we get that the client has been created successfully. So now let's check if the validation process is working properly. So let's begin with the rule for email that it must be unique. So let's change the others, and is from Indonesia and she speaks English, for instance. Send our request, and we get an error from bad request. In the body we are getting an HTML response, and we don't expect from an API to get HTML code. So we need more information about the error. Let's do that. Let's go back to the Visual Studio Code, and here in the error that we are going aborting, let's comment this and return the proper errors. So let's return response, and we're going to say a JSON response. The first one will be the data. We say that the error comes from validator errors, and the status code will be of 400. Let's save and try again. And now if we send a request, we are getting a proper error message that the email has been already taken. This is what we want. Now let's try another rules. For example, what happens if name is missing? And let's change the email. So let's send. And here we have the proper error. And let's check another one. That language is not in the options that we are expected. So for example, Italian. Send, and the selected language is invalid. Okay, we're getting the proper errors, so we can continue with the next method. So let's go for the get method. I'm going to copy and paste these two lines, and here it goes, let all clients. The method will be get, and the action name will be index. And in the client controller, let's create the index method, the index action, sorry. And now, let's get all the clients from the database with the Eloquent method all and return them. Return clients. Now go to Postman. This one, let's say, a request will be create client. Now add request. Here will be the same URL and send a request. Now we are returning to Peter. So let's go to create another client. Here goes for English. Okay, now let's test again here the get all clients, and we're getting all the clients from our database. Also, we need to get only specific clients. So let's create that route inside the API. Again, I'm going to copy and paste, getting specific client. Get, and here the client slash, we're going to receive the ID of the client, and the name of the action will be show. So here below index, show, and now inside show we are going to receive the request and the ID. Sorry, we're going to receive the ID here, that is of type string. And now let's go and look for that client. So with client find that ID, and if we don't have a client with that ID, let's return a response with client not found and with a 404, else we're going to return the client. Let's try this new one. Go to Postman, create a new request for get specific client, and this we're going to name it perfect. We need to copy and paste, and we're going to pass an ID of 1, and we're getting Peter. If we pass an ID of 2, we've got Anne, and if we don't, if we look for an ID that doesn't exist, for example 5, we're getting a 404 error code. So there is another way to do this that Laravel provides us a better solution, that is the following. Here we can pass, for example, client, And instead of receiving the ID and find and look for the client with that ID, this way Laravel is going to look for that client to our database for us and retrieving the client to the action that we're passing here. The naming is very important, so it must be the name of the model in singular. So let's go here for the client controller, and now we're receiving not the ID but the client. So here it will be of type client, and now we can get rid of this line. And now let's try this one. Let's go to Postman, and if we go for Peter, now we can see that we're getting Peter. But again, if we go for a client that doesn't exist, we are getting a 404 but with an HTML code. This means that we are not reaching our client response. This is because if Eloquent doesn't find a client with the ID, this function is not executing. So to handle custom errors, we have another way to do it. So let's remove this and go here in the routes. We're going to say a missing function. So let's return this our custom error message. Let's clean it a bit. Now let's save and let's try this missing function. Let's send again. And now we're getting our custom message. To update our client, we can do it by editing all the information at once or only specific fields. So let's do both of them. Let's begin with the route for update all the data. So we're going to receive the put method, and we can copy of the specific client here, and let's name it with a comment to update all client information. The action, it is going to be called update. And now after store, let's create update. And again, we're going to here to receive the client. And also we need to validate the data as well as the store action. So let's grab it. And also the error, the validation error. We can reuse this code. And here the request, it comes from, it will be the first param. And now we need to update our client. So now client name will be the name that comes from the request. The same for the email. And Let's copy this one for the country and the language. So after updating our client, let's save the changes and return the response, and the message will be client updated successfully. Good. So let's try this new method. And oh, okay, here add request. Update all client. Sorry. Information. Let's grab the URL. And now we need to pass all the data. Let's go here in the row. It will be George. The email will be george@mail.com. The country of George will be Mexico, and George speaks Portuguese. Let's send a request. Client not found. We're getting okay. Peter's ID is 1, so we're getting the proper error. Client not found. Now let's send, and we're getting Peter. Because I'm sending the get method, I am changing it to put. Try again, and the client updated successfully. So let's try the error. What happens if I put here 6? Okay, the error is working properly. So let's go, and what happened to all clients? Now George is in place of Peter. Okay, let's update specific data of each client. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code and create the new route. Let's copy all this one and change the name. Update clients specific piece of data. Here we're going to receive the patch method, and the action will be called update specific. Okay, now let's go back to client controller and create this new action. So as update, we need these 2 params. We need also the validation process. Here we need to change the required, because here we're going to update specific data. None of the fields can be required. Okay, now after that, we need to update the specific fields as we say before. So for this, we need to check if the request has name So we are going to update the client's name. Sorry, I have a typo here. Request. The same for email. So if request has email, the client email is what we're getting from the request. So I'm going to copy and paste this one. Now we need to save the new data. And return the response of client updated successfully. Let's go to Postman and create the new request. Here, suppose, oh, sorry. Here would be patch, copy, update specific pieces of data. And let's go to the body, to the row. Now let's update to Anne. Now her name will be of Lucy. Let's try this one. Okay, client updated successfully. And let's go for now Lucy. Okay, now Anne's name is Lucy. If we go now, if I go here and let's say that the email will be this one from George to test only to test another validation. And we're getting the proper error from the email. And if we go here to look for a not existing ID, we're getting client not found. So the final method will be delete. Let's go for that. Here, create a route, and I'm going to copy this route, delete client, receive a delete, and the action will be destroy. Go to controller and create the function. We're going to receive here the client, delete the client, and return the response of client deleted successfully. And the status code will be of 204. Save, and let's go to Postman and create the last request. delete, and we're going to delete to Lucy. Fine, we're getting no content. Let's go to get all clients, and now we're getting only George. Thank you for watching all the video. I really appreciate your like and your comment to this video. Let me know if you have any question or if you want me making more videos like this. So bye bye.